Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're getting into the mechanics behind how truly world-class companies actually run. Think Amazon, Toyota, Apple. We hear so much about their products or marketing, but often the real magic, the secret sauce, it's happening behind the scenes in operations management, OM. So for this deep dive, we've gathered some foundational material on operations management. Our goal here is pretty straightforward. Pull out the key strategic ideas. We want to understand, what OM really is, how it drives competition, and then look at the core methods like Lean, Six Sigma that make companies incredibly efficient. If you want the shortcut to understanding how great companies operate, this is it.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is that operations management at its core is elegantly simple. It's all about the design, the supervision, and crucially, the improvement of processes, the ones used to make goods or deliver services. It's really an art of transformation taking inputs like materials, data, even people's time, and turning them efficiently into the output you want.
Okay, but if it's just about processing inputs, why is it so strategic? Why do top executives care so much about what sounds like, back office stuff?
Because how well you do OM directly impacts almost every major competitive goal. It's not just managing costs, it's actually creating value. A really strong operations system gives you efficiency, it ensures quality, optimizes how you use resources, and that builds real competitive advantage. Look at Toyota, right? Their famous Toyota production system. They built quality checks into every single step of making a car.
That's an operational decision then.
Absolutely. It might seem like checking quality slows things down, but by catching problems early, they avoid massive rework or warranty issues later, so it actually makes them faster and more efficient overall.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting for me. We get the purpose, but how does a company decide how it's going to compete using operations? How does OM become like the main reason they win?
Well, it always starts with an operations strategy. This strategy is absolutely vital because it forces the operations side, the how things get done, to line up perfectly with the big company goals, the why. The strategy basically sets the rules of the game. Are you competing mainly on cost, on quality, speed, or maybe flexibility?
And our source material lays out these four main competitive dimensions pretty clearly. And they all seem to stem from operational choices.
That's exactly right. First up, you've got cost leadership. Here, the entire system, everything is designed for the lowest possible cost while, keeping quality at an acceptable level. Think McDonald's. They're not aiming for gourmet burgers,
Yeah.
right? But there's standardization across the globe, how they source ingredients, the exact process for cooking. It's all hyper-focused on speed, consistency, and controlling costs.
That operational machine is their advantage.
Precisely, which contrasts sharply with the second dimension, quality leadership. This is about offering something superior, a product or service that stands out, which lets you charge more.
Apple comes to mind immediately.
Classic example. Apple doesn't compromise on design, materials, the user experience. Their operational setup supports that relentless focus on innovation and, frankly, aesthetics. Quality lets them compete on value, not just price.
Okay, third is delivery speed and reliability. This one feels maybe the most relevant today.
It's certainly very visible. And Amazon is the poster child here. Absolutely. Their whole operational setup, huge fulfillment centers, complex algorithms predicting demand to pre-position stock.
Yeah, they know what I want before I do sometimes.
Right. It's all built around making same-day or next-day delivery the norm. Speed, enabled by incredibly sophisticated operations, is fundamentally what they sell.
And the last one is flexibility, being able to adapt quickly.
Exactly. Adapting to shifting markets or changing customer tastes. Zara, the fashion retailer, is a great case study. They chose shorter, more integrated supply chains. This lets them go from spotting a trend to having a new design on the shelf in just weeks, not months. In fast fashion, that speed and flexibility is everything.
And if you look at all four, cost, quality, speed, flexibility, they all seem to connect back to one core metric you mentioned: productivity.
They absolutely do. Productivity, technically output divided by input, is strategically about how efficiency gains unlock growth. Think about a textile factory that automates its sewing machines. It's not just making more shirts per hour, it's drastically cutting the cost per shirt.
Which frees up money.
Exactly, frees up capital to invest in the next advantage. Productivity is really the engine that turns operational strategy into profit.
Okay, the strategy is clear. The what? But you can't execute any strategy if your actual product or service isn't reliable. How did operations thinking shift over time to put such a huge emphasis on quality?
Oh, that was a massive shift. A revolution, really. Quality in this operational sense is about consistently meeting or even better, exceeding what the customer expects. And it didn't start there. It evolved way back early 1900s. It was mostly about inspection checking things after they were made,
Okay.
finding mistakes, very reactive. Then around the 1950s, we got quality control. That was more about monitoring the process itself, trying to prevent defects from happening in the first place.
Being proactive.
Right. And then came the big leap in the 1980s. The realization that quality isn't just one department's job. It has to be everyone's responsibility across the whole organization. That was the dawn of total quality management, TQM.
TQM. We still hear that term a lot.
Absolutely. And TQM wasn't just dreamt up in some strategy meeting. It was really driven by a few key thinkers, these quality gurus, who fundamentally changed how we approach work. And this is kind of an aha moment because their ideas are everywhere now, even if we don't realize it. Like W. Edwards Deming. He didn't just talk about quality. He pushed for seeing production as a whole system. He gave us the PDCA cycle plan, do, check, act. It sounds simple, but it formalized that process of constant iteration, constant feedback.
So Deming focused on the system, the cycle. What about Joseph Juran?
Juran brought structure. His big contribution was the Juran trilogy. He said quality needs dedicated management focus in 3 areas: planning, figuring out the requirements, then control monitoring how you're doing against those requirements, and crucially, a separate focus on improvement, actively making things better.
He basically put a management framework around quality.
Precisely. And then you had Philip Crosby. He was the one pushing that really aggressive goal, 0 defects.
Which sounds impossible.
Well, maybe literally, but Crosby's point was about the mindset. He defined quality very practically as conformance to requirements. Aiming for 0 defects forces everyone to take defects seriously, to eliminate the cost of not doing things right the first time.
And these aren't just historical footnotes.
Not at all. They are the bedrock of modern corporate culture. Think about Toyota's Kaizen philosophy, that relentless pursuit of small, continuous improvements. That's pure Deming, pure systems thinking embedded in their culture.
Okay, this is the really exciting part for me. We have the philosophy, the strategy, the tools, the practical methods companies use every day to get that operational edge. Let's talk Lean and Six Sigma.
Right. Let's start with Lean systems. This came directly out of the Toyota Production System, just brilliant stuff. Lean's core idea is simple. Maximize the value delivered to the customer while minimizing, actually eliminating, waste.
We hear about the 5 Lean principles: identify value, map the value stream, create flow, establish pull, seek perfection.
Yeah.
But I think the most practical thing for anyone listening is understanding the 7 types of waste, the NUDAs, because you see them everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. They apply whether you're making cars, processing insurance claims, or running a hospital. They are often hiding in plain sight. Overproduction is maybe the most obvious in manufacturing, making more than needed. But in software, it's building features nobody asked for or uses.
Okay, what about waiting?
Waiting in a factory is an idle machine or worker. But in an office, it's waiting for approvals, waiting for information. In healthcare, it's that horrible queue time in the ER. It's unproductive time.
And overprocessing, that sounds very familiar in office settings.
Definitely. It's doing more work than the customer actually values or requires, polishing a part that's going to be hidden anyway. Or, in an office, having 5 people review a simple internal memo, using overly complex software for a simple task.
Right, unnecessary steps.
Exactly. And then you have the other wastes. Excess inventory, tying up capital, unnecessary transport of goods or information, wasted motion, people walking around inefficiently, and of course defects requiring rework. Lean systematically hunts down and eliminates all of these.
Right. Lean cleans house, gets rid of the unnecessary stuff. Then there's Six Sigma. This one always sounds more statistical, focused on consistency.
It is very data-driven. While Lean attacks waste, Six Sigma attacks variation. It's a disciplined methodology aimed at reducing defects and making processes incredibly consistent and predictable. The name itself comes from the statistical goal, aiming for a process that produces no more than 3.4 defects per million opportunities. It's virtually defect-free. 99.99966% perfect.
Wow. Okay. And how do they actually achieve that level of consistency? There's this specific process, right? The DMAI cycle.
That's the engine of Six Sigma. Define, measure, analyze, improve, control. DMAIC. You first Define the problem clearly and what the customer requires. Then you measure the current process performance, get the data. Then you analyze that data to find the root causes of the defects or variation.
Find the real source of the problem.
Exactly. Then you improve the process by implementing solutions that address those root causes. And finally, critically, you control the improved process to make sure the gains stick and you don't slip back.
And big companies have used this to great effect.
Oh, absolutely. General Electric under Jack Welch is probably the most famous example. They applied Six Sigma across wildly different businesses, jet engines, finance, plastics, and reported billions in savings. It showed how powerful a structured, data-driven approach to improvement could be.
It's important to stress, though, these aren't just one-off projects. The source material mentions Kaizen again here.
Right. Kaizen, that Japanese philosophy of change for the better, reinforces that improvement isn't a single event. It's continuous, incremental, everybody's job every day. It's the culture that sustains Lean and Six Sigma gains.
Which is a good point to pivot slightly. We've talked about optimizing things internally. How does this connect to the bigger picture, especially with globalization and ethics becoming so central?
That's a crucial connection, because optimized internal operations now have to function within a much more complex and frankly scrutinized global environment.
Globalization definitely throws a wrench in the works, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Managing international supply chains seems incredibly complex.
It is. You're dealing with customs, tariffs, different regulations, cultural nuances, logistics over vast distances, all while trying to maintain consistent quality standards everywhere. The complexity just explodes.
And that complexity creates risks. You mentioned Toyota earlier, systems like just-in-time JIT, which are super efficient.
Right, JIT is a core part of the Toyota production system. It's about getting materials and parts to arrive exactly when they're needed for production, not before.
Which minimizes the inventory storage costs. Sounds very lean.
It's textbook lean, beautifully efficient when it works, but
There's always a but. That efficiency must make it fragile.
extremely fragile in today's world. JIT relies on perfect timing and smooth-running global logistics. So when you have disruptions, port closures, geopolitical crises, pandemics like we saw, the whole system can grind to a halt very quickly. If one small part is missing, the entire assembly line might stop.
So companies now have this tension, maximum lean efficiency versus building in some resilience, maybe holding more inventory.
Exactly. That's a huge strategic operations decision right now. Efficiency versus robustness. And the external pressures aren't just about risk anymore, they're increasingly about ethics. We have to talk about green operations and ethical production.
Green operations minimizing environmental impact.
Yes, it's about designing and managing processes to reduce waste, pollution, energy consumption, essentially, eco-efficiency. And interestingly, this often aligns perfectly with lean. Less waste is less material cost. Optimized flow often means less energy used. Being green can actually save money.
Makes sense. And ethical production. What are the key concerns there?
The sources highlight a few critical areas. First, product quality and safety, ensuring what you make doesn't harm people. Second, labor and human rights. This is huge, especially in global supply chains. Avoiding child labor, forced labor, ensuring fair wages and safe working conditions.
And that responsibility extends down the whole chain, right? Not just your own factories.
Absolutely. Companies are increasingly held accountable for their suppliers' practices, too. And the third big ethical area now is data transparency. Basically, being honest. Avoiding greenwashing, claiming you're environmentally friendly when the data doesn't support it, or making misleading claims about your products or practices. Operations has a role in ensuring the data integrity behind those claims.
Okay, so let's try to wrap this up. We've covered a lot of ground. The big takeaway for me is that operations management isn't just a department, it's fundamentally strategic. Winning in the market often comes down to how well you execute on those key dimensions: cost, quality, speed, flexibility. And the way you achieve that is through this relentless focus on continuous improvement, using tools like Lean and Six Sigma, all built on that TQM philosophy.
Well put. And maintaining those gains, standardizing the improvements, is where other tools come in. Like Deming's PDCA cycle we mentioned, the 5S methodology for keeping workplaces organized and efficient, and importantly, benchmarking.
Benchmarking, comparing yourself to others.
Exactly. Systematically comparing your processes and performance metrics against the best in class, both inside and outside your industry. Like when Ford famously studied Toyota system back in the day, it's about learning from the best to keep getting better.
Right, and that standardization, that planning, relies heavily on forecasting demand and planning capacity accurately. Which brings us to our final thought for you, the listener. We know accurate demand forecasting and capacity planning are essential to avoid waste, meet customer needs, and run efficiently. But what happens when market demand gets really volatile, unpredictable? How do organizations ethically manage their workforce strategy then?
Yeah, think about the tension between a chase strategy, where you hire and fire workers constantly to match fluctuating demand, which is tough on people, versus a level strategy, where you keep a stable workforce but risk building up unsold inventory or having idle time during downturns.
That balancing act between operational needs, cost efficiency, and the ethical treatment of your workforce, especially when facing uncertainty. That seems like a defining challenge for operations leaders today and tomorrow.
It really is. That tension is likely where a lot of the innovation and operations management will happen next. Something to think about. Thanks for diving deep with us today.